wreaks narco that has destroyed our society and our humanity. What's needed now more than ever is to regain the ability to think for ourselves once again. Instead of being divided between two opposing camps, both of which are equally wrong and totally inconsistent with what is really truthful, we seek to go outside those limits and engage in a process of dialogue with various minded people in politics, art, culture, and other subjects.
We do not believe in talking to people who share the same points of view as us, but with people that are sincere and have something productive to say on the current state of affairs in the world. And this can be anybody.
Today, we declare independence from the torchbearers and break our chains to seek out and find and talk with those who are also unafraid.
We declare independence from the tyranny of those who think they can control our thoughts and can force us to choose between what they present to us like shadows in a cave. That's why we are declaring independence.
All right. Welcome back yet again to the second show of the second week. To our patrons, we promised that we go live once a week, and I think we're so far doing a pretty good job. Although we have a very interesting lineup. Tomorrow we will be joined by the hosts of Untold Stories of America. But today we will be joined by Alex Strenger, and we'll introduce him in just a second here. I will read his bio here in just a second. But first, I wanted to just thank our patrons again, and we will be reading their names in just a second. We have 47 patrons, and I really want to thank you for that. Elon Abramov says, hi. Thank you for joining our stream here. With that being said, Kynan, you have anything you want to say to our lovely audience?
Well, I'm just glad that we're actually getting started back after a long hiatus. We have a lot planned, and people should tune in, because we are unfiltered. We'll talk to anyone who has something good to say. And that includes people from the left, people from the right, people from the up, people from the bottom. We don't care. So tune in.
That's right. Yes. People often ask me, Jose, are you left? Are you right? I'm a felon. So, with that being said, I'm now going to introduce our guest, Alex Strenger. Now, Alex is doing something that's very dear to my heart, which is the art of interventions. What do I mean by that? People know Kynan and I from interrupting different politicians or media figures. The most recent one that I did was confronting the New York Times, Washington Post, Reuters, and LA Times, and Kynan also was a part of that too. And, it's a very important thing that it happens because not only do these things have national implications, but they have international applications. Our videos go viral in Russia, China, all over the world. I've seen it in Hungary, Germany, Italy, France, translated into different languages, because the world needs to know that Americans are not their American government. And we have this idea of taking back your government. That's exactly what we're all about. We believe that people should be in control of their government. And so with that, I want to introduce Alex Strenger, who is a pedicab driver who makes rap songs about conspiracy theories, trolls city council meetings and corporations, crashes political rallies, and confronts politicians in order to raise awareness about laws that compromise our basic civil liberties. I like that already. He has performed on stage with Sam Tripoli and Eddie Bravo at numerous venues in Texas, including the Paramount Stateside Theater in Austin. He is host of Convos on the Pedicab, where he talks to a wide variety of people on the problems we are facing at the local, state, national, and international level in order to find common sense solutions on solving them. In 2018, he ran for mayor of Austin on the promise to build a dome around the city in order to stop Californians from moving there. With that being said, Alex, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on, brother.
Jose, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Listen, man, I see you're very active. You're a lot more active than Kynan and I have been lately. We've been working on some stuff behind the scenes that we can't really talk about. And all I can say is, 2024 will be a very interesting election year for many of us.
I think it's going to be very interesting, but I may be making more stuff, but the stuff that you guys are doing requires a lot more balls than a lot of what I'm doing. So, I
I don't know. I mean, it takes a lot to wear clown makeup to a city council meeting and sit there and wait for them to call you. But I don't know. It's pretty funny to me. So, Alex, before we get to some of the videos here that I have of you, I want to just talk a little bit about. So, we read your bio, and you have an interesting background. Talks on the pedicab. What is it exactly you're seeking to do? Why do you seek out dialogue with people? Why do you seek out conversations?
The short answer is I want to continue living in the United States, and everything that happened during COVID was a complete and total assault on our civil liberties. And if people do not have these discussions and talk about these issues in a calm and measured way, we are going to descend into authoritarianism, either via communism or fascism, and both are equally evil and they should be avoided. And, I'm not an expert on history, but I do know that authoritarian regimes start and manifest themselves when people lose clarity, jump on a herd mentality, and don't want to communicate with each other in a calm and measured way. And so if you still are able to do so and you can reach people, you have an obligation to try to stop these horrors from manifesting.
Yeah, I completely agree, Kynan.
Well, I think we should go into some of the videos because I'm interested. But we've managed to reach a lot more people that would otherwise not talk to us because they see that we're serious. That we're actually holding truth to power and that we're confronting these people, which a lot of people don't think about normally doing it nowadays. A lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines, looking at social media or whatever things that people use to entertain themselves nowadays. I'm just interested in, what responses you have gotten from confronting these city council members, and if people have appreciated you for that.
Yeah, I think that follow through is key. And the best way to fight fascism, communism, or any kind of tyranny is active involvement. And this is, our country was founded through active involvement, and we've preserved these values since we've been formed as a result of active involvement. And the reason that we've been losing the sight of these values, and it's been a gradual decline over the past, 100 years or so, is because people have gotten less and less and less actively involved. And so, the more actively involved you get, if you do it in a way that's engaging, you encourage other people to become actively involved. And if you're actively involved in a way that's calm and measured and makes your side look sane and rational while these oppressors look like insane bad guys, well, that brings us a step closer to regaining the freedoms that this country was founded upon. That's really the gist of it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So let's go to the first video. Unless you're going to say more, Kynan?
No, let's go to the first video.
So as I'm pulling this up, I want you to kind of set the scene here. Let's see. I didn't share the audio, but can you? So what's going on here? Exposing feds with that slave to liberty outside of Nashville gay pride event. So what's going on? I'll bring it back up. I just got to get.
All right, so let's backtrack this. All right. Right now you have a political regime in office that seems to be doing everything that they can to stoke global conflict and division locally amongst ourselves. Conspiracy theories, partisanship aside, when you as a country are $34 trillion in debt, and other countries are becoming more powerful than you because when you don't have sound money and your money is backed by nothing, lack of sound money leads to cultural degeneracy for a wide variety of reasons. Because it de-incentivizes people to grow and improve themselves. It makes it harder to have families. And then, 2 generations later, you have Sprinkles the drag queen reading stories to your 5-year-old kid at the local elementary school at recess, right? Just to put this in the most general in the most general terms, right? And so a society that lives, to fulfill its base gratifications and not pursue, having a family and building these strong foundations, because you can't have freedom without a community or a strong foundation. Just look at how many people caved to lockdowns, how many people got that vaccine when they didn't want to. It's because it's because you lack that strong foundation. It's like, hey, I'm $300,000 in debt from my student loans at my house, and my job is going to fire me. I better get this shot. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to live if I, without my suburban standard of living. I don't know how I'll be able to survive. If that makes sense. Or, I'm getting pressured by a peer group that isn't going to let me go out to the bar with them if I don't show a vaccine card. I better go get this shot. This girl that I think is attractive isn't going to sleep with me unless I'm vaccinated. Like young, attractive women do a great job at being like the gatekeepers for how society is going to behave. And they're always used by political establishments to establish like how they want men to behave in compliance with like a subjugative regime, right? Where were we on this?
I was setting up we were setting up the video.
Okay, so about the Nazis and about the fascism. Okay, so anyway, moral of the story, I went on a rant, but lack of sound leads to cultural degradation. It leads to losing a foundation. Leads to authoritarianism. Leads to a lack of clarity, right? And you have an administration that's exploiting this on multiple avenues. And you also have a push through with people at Davos, with like the Davos class, the World Economic Forum, to use crisis after crisis to create, for lack of a better word, a new world order where a select group of billionaires and government officials and academics who service these billionaires have complete control over how society functions at large, with absolutely no room for meaningful pushback. In order for this to happen, people need to comply for something like this. And in order to get compliance, you need an event. And one of these events that they're going to try, I believe, they're going to try to use is going to be like the prevalence of Nazism. And what I'm starting to notice is that you're going to see a lot of, Nazis show up to pride events and show up to a lot of these like, basically a lot of like gay pride events, which have kind of been hijacked, but you're going to see a lot of that stuff. And you're seeing reports on CNN, CBS, major news outlets about how, hey, the right-wing extremists are going to hijack the power grid. And they did this to you because you're calling out the Ukraine war, and they're going to lump everybody who disagrees with establishment and regime talking points as a right-wing extremist, because this is how you pit people against each other. And when you're a country $34 trillion in debt, and that debt is going to be called upon within our lifetimes, they don't want you going after the powerful. They want you going after each other so that the powerful can use this debt crisis to become even more powerful. And events like this and people who dress up as Nazis to intimidate gay people at pride events are going to be used to kind of get the ball rolling on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's a very kind of sober look to say, there is infiltration going on to try and stoke division, even if it's with things that I vehemently oppose and disagree.
I'm Jewish. I hate Nazis. I had family that got killed in the Holocaust, right? That being said, I'm not worried about the prevalence of Nazis. But I live in Texas, like I'm not worried about I don't feel worried about it. I don't feel uncomfortable telling people I'm Jewish, right? Like it just doesn't, so it doesn't worry me or bother me. But it's also very easy to bring back these boogeymen to create more division and more of an excuse to take individual liberties away. And so that's the premise for what you're about to see in this video.
All right, yeah, let's go right to it. Let's stop beating around the bush there.
Stop beating around the bush. Sorry, I go on these rants and I get like lost. Do
not apologize, man. That's like the point of these shows, man. We don't have any. See, we're independent of form, man. That's how independent we are. We have no form.
I like
So
it. I like it.
Here we go. Let's see here if I can pull this up. All right. Okay, well, we got to be careful with that. I might have to go over and censor this after so we don't get demonetized for this. But here we go.
Patriot front. Woo! Patriot front.
Hold on. What's that police siren in the back? Is that you, Alex? Is that Kynan?
I think that's
No,
me.
they're just having police
Yeah,
cars.
Yeah, mute yourself, Kynan. Okay, there we go. All right, here we go.
Patriot front. Woo! Patriot front.
Hey, I love your sign, dude. Hey, shout out Patriot Front, baby. Let's go.
Patriot front. Woo!
How long have y'all been feds? How long have you been a fed for, sir?
What is it? We got it.
Hey, I love the federal government. Keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is great. Hey, anybody who doesn't want to wear a mask or get vaccinated, they are white supremacists. It's important to let everybody know. What you're doing is great. You're doing great work.
Patriot front.
I love Patriot Front.
It's really like provocative lettering and wording, etc. Because I got doxxed, I got fired from my job. The doxxed, I have nothing left to lose. So I'm not.
What were you doxxed for?
White supremacy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
I had nothing left to lose. I mean, what else can they take from me? I already lost my job. So.
But he actually seems pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got a lot of.
I'm just saying, I'm not sure this is helping.
You got the Azov Battalion. They're the good Nazis. They want you to wear a mask and get vaccinated. So, Hey, God loves you. Best of luck.
Wow. We'll keep that up the screen for a little bit longer. Wow.
I appreciate that.
So you were saying Patriot Front. Patriot Front. What is that, like a name of an organization or something? Or
you ever see the videos of these like white supremacist protesters that conveniently march in unison wearing matching outfits, wearing like the khakis and the polo shirts, and they cover their faces completely?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know how like the federal government, they're like FBI agents are like told, hey, you got to infiltrate these movements, as part of training.
Yeah.
It's like, we're hypothesizing strongly that it's the FBI class of 2023 or 24 that's going and doing these little field trips.
No, see, I really appreciate that, calling that out for what it is, because, I in one sense, I share the same view as you that I don't think there should be drag queen story hour for children, right?
No.
Like that's in my opinion, I think it should be the objective opinion, is absurd, right? At the same time, we can recognize like people are going to use that absurdity to try and squirrel their way in to divide people, right? And be like, look at how, that's exactly why, we need to beat them up or be violent towards them, right? And it's like, no, that is not what that means. And so, yeah.
And if I can say something about it, because it reminds me a lot of what happened in January 6th. You had a lot of these people who didn't exactly know what they were doing. Obviously, they weren't, plotting to overthrow the government or something. This guy with a Viking helmet on. I mean, it's ridiculous, the narrative that they spin. And yet we see news coming out about,
somebody got a phone call. I think we lost Kynan here. We'll bring him back in when he gets in there. But yeah, I think I know what the point you're trying to make is that like a lot of the January 6th people were just manipulated into, going into the actual Capitol,
Yeah, and then these people and a lot of these same people still think Donald Trump is going to save them and fight the deep state, whereas he organized a protest that just put a bunch of his own supporters in jail.
Wow. Oh, wow, Alex. So what are your politics? I'm very interested to know.
Honestly, I look at, I think that the president has very little to do with how your life is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to preserve a lot of these freedoms is to get involved locally and get involved at the state level.
Wow.
I think that a return to sound money, I think a lot of the problems that we're dealing with on a cultural level are because we have bad money. That's what I think. I think that when you have money that's backed by nothing, you create a lot of these income inequality issues. And ever since we've been on a fiat standard, this has been the bloodiest 50 to 70 years in the history of the world, right? Ever since we've been off the gold standard, pretty much, there's never been a time in the world where there's been peace. There's always been like a war or a genocide or a dictatorship or a dictatorial regime, and it's been awful. Ever since the UN was formed, which was supposedly designed to stop wars and global conflict and create global peacekeeping, we've had the exact opposite of that. So I think that it's difficult to explain, right? I think that there are certain things
you're doing a good job of it so far.
Yeah, I think there are certain things I'm very conservative about, and certain things I'm a little bit less conservative about. But basically, my policies are that the government should spend as little as possible. I think that when it comes to a bond and you have to vote, when it comes to voting on a bond item, my saying is you should vote no on the bond, no matter what it is and no matter what it promises. You always vote no on whatever your local government bonds are going to be. I don't think that the United Nations should exist. I don't think the World Health Organization should exist. I don't think we need an IMF or a World Trade Organizations or lenders of last resort. All that does is exacerbate income inequality and cause bankers and hedge fund managers and people with insane amounts of money to gamble on your savings, because they know that they'll always be bailed out, whereas you won't be. And these organizations serve as a backstop for large mega corporations. I think that you have something like Bitcoin, and I think when more people adopt Bitcoin, understand how to use it and transact in a currency with a fixed supply that's hard to produce, a lot of the problems that we are dealing with right now they're not going to go away, but they won't be nearly as terrible. And a lot of people, they talk about, hey, I want to solve world hunger. I want to fix poverty. I want to make sure everyone's housed. And none of that stuff, in my opinion, is realistic at all. But I think that there are solutions out there, whereas if you adopt a solution, like there are enough resources out there where, like, if you choose to take advantage of those resources, these problems will not affect you. And you want to guide as many people to those resources as possible without forcing it on them.
Wow.
Is my take.
You sound a lot like my communist friends.
You think so?
Yeah, no, I shouldn't say that. I have friends who are socialists who are just on the same wave as you are. Well, some of them call themselves anarcho-socialists, where what they say is that we don't need a president, or like what you said, the president has no effect on people's personal lives, right? And that we should rely on each other and we should do things at the state and local level. They call mutual aid, right?
Yeah.
So,
Dude, hold up. So the greatest like psyop is they're getting us to hate each other. Like, I have way more in common with like the average far left, like radical communist than I do with like the average mainstream conservative voter, you know. But then they look at people like me like I'm the bad guy because I'm very loud and vocally effective against some of these insane, well-intentioned left-leaning policies that have gone too far and have obviously gotten co-opted by large corporate interests that these people claim to hate and complain about.
No, I really like that, because that's like what you said. It's just common sense.
Yeah, it's
that's
common
all
sense.
It is. It's just common sense. There's nothing more to it. Yeah. So, Kynan, you have anything to add?
I think I lost connection a couple of minutes ago. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay, well, you're back. Welcome back. Yeah. So let's move. I want to move on here to the next video you have here, which is target.
But wait up. When it comes to communism, the difference is that like a lot of the communists believe that the problems are solved by more government, and like they'll say, oh well, they'll recognize me and like the average communist, right? Will recognize the same problems, right? And there is a horseshoe effect where people who are like way on the right and way on the left kind of are like way more alike than you think. And I've always said that. And that's why I've always been like wanting to talk to everybody and very open-minded to a lot of people. And, even at like communist protests, like I'm never mean. I never yell at them. I never scream or talk. I'm always calm, and it's always fun, even if I'm making fun of them. Like there was a Protect Trans Kids protest because they passed a bill to ban gender reassignment surgery for minors. And if you're on the left, you should look at this stuff like, duh, they should ban this stuff because all that does is just help big pharma make money. Right?
Yeah.
And it also undermines the case for student loan forgiveness. Because like, if an 18-year-old, like, all right, if a 5-year-old can consent to getting puberty blockers, what, an 18-year-old kid can't consent to taking out a loan? You know what I mean? The logic makes no sense. It undermines the case for like student loan forgiveness and whatnot. And so it's just like, my anger at these people is not really because I disagree with so much like what they're saying. It's just the hypocrisy of all of it. Like even during the BLM protests, right? How come the Forgive Student Loan crowd didn't like attack a major university for jacking prices and creating a generation of debt slaves? Why didn't the universal healthcare crowd do anything about the large health insurance conglomerates that deliberately rip people off and cause people to go into crippling poverty if they break their leg? They didn't do any of that. They destroyed small mom and pop businesses. They promoted lockdowns. And everything that they did empowered, strengthened, and increased the wealth dramatically of the corporations that they claim to oppose. So it's not really like I hate their ideas. It's just that these people aren't serious people.
It's kind of funny actually, because like you hit the nail on the head, right? That you actually have a lot in common with the left and with these communists. But when people hear label like, oh, I'm right wing and you're communist, we should hate each other, people immediately, dissolve the topics. But the funniest thing to me is that, because I know people on every single angle of the political spectrum, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny to me because I know leftists who are like, look, man, we should just keep to ourselves, help each other, have a community, think local and state level. And then I have people who are like hardcore Republicans who are like, the government shouldn't be interfering in our world. All we need is keep ourselves, make sure our neighbors are okay, be very neighborly and friendly. It's like, well, wait a minute. Are you guys saying the same
thing, but differently? I always notice that.
Yeah, right. And to me, that's just the funniest thing ever. That people actually, try to, if they just sat and talked with each other, this division would not be going on. And I think, I think that's the point of your show on the Pedicab, right? You're just trying to.
Yeah, I try to. I mean, it's been harder to have left-leaning guests because of some of the stunts I've been pulling.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. It'll come.
No, hey, listen, I know, yeah. Even though on my Twitter I get everybody, I do have more of a right wing people who follow me than a left wing, which is
yes, I noticed that.
So sometimes like when I post like, semi lefty stuff, I do get people like, what is this? What the fuck is this? I'm like, hey, but anyway.
You're in New York City. You're from New York City, and chances are you're going to be on the left because New York is a left-leaning place. Like I grew up in New York, I get it. And you grew up in the Bronx?
Yeah.
So like, if people are going to complain about you being on the left, like that's crazy. That's just being out of touch with reality. And there's also pictures of you wearing masks. There's also pictures of you like wearing a mask and videos of you having a mask on during everything. So it's like, obviously, like my first impression was like that you were on the left.
Oh, you talking about the one on my Twitter cover photo?
Yeah.
I think the Kamala one.
That was because that's when I intervened on Kamala Harris. And in order to be in the room, you had to keep your mask on.
Okay.
Right. It wasn't like the whole mask thing. I mean, yes, I lived in New York City. You couldn't like step outside your home without wearing a mask. And rather than fighting against it, I was like, nah, fuck it. To me, it was just like a fuck it, whatever. Right. But the moment they lifted it, I was kind of glad. Like, okay, I don't need to wear this thing anymore. Well, anyway, now that's another
topic, and I think that polarized a lot of people. So for me, I drive a pedicab. And that guy's pretty much right.
Yeah, thank you, Deconstructing.
Yeah, that's actually 1,000% correct. Shout out.
And thank you for the super chat, Deconstructing Topics.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? So that's another thing too. Like I drive a pedicab downtown in Austin. Like I'm like an autistic savant. Like riding this tricycle around, taking drunk people around downtown. Like that's the only job I've ever been good at. And before like. It's pretty much the only job it's the longest job I've ever held. And I got this job maybe 5 months after moving to Austin. And if it wasn't for this job, like I lived with my mom and dad in New York in Riverdale until I was 27 years old. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. I lived with my mom and dad till I was 27. I was like just a loser living in New York City, felt like I had nothing going on, no motivation, nothing, right? And I find pedicabbing, and finally I find a job that I am actually good at, that I enjoy doing, that allows me to connect with people, that possibly give me the freedom to make investments and do all this stuff. And then when COVID happened and they took that job away from me, that is kind of what really set the wheels in motion. So that's a little bit of a backstory.
No, wow. Actually, yeah. Well, so you lived here in the Bronx too, basically, Riverdale.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're up in Riverdale. I'm here.
I was in a different area. I was in the part of the Bronx where people look like me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you're in the part of the Bronx where people don't say they live in the Bronx. They say they live in Riverdale.
I know.
Right?
I just said Riverdale,
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like a different part of New York or something. But look, first of all, it's all love here, brother. Now I heard like religious undertones to you. Are you? You said God loves you. Would you say you're religious?
Oh, with the white supremacists? No, I'm not religious. I'm Jewish. I don't know that I believe fully in like taking mainstream religion literally, but I do think that, like, especially after everything that's happened these past 3 years, it's important to like try to establish a better connection with God, and like whatever faith you're born into. I think exploring that faith more and learning about it, and like having a community based on whatever faith you're born into. If you're a Jew, then explore Judaism. If you're a Christian, explore your Christianity. If you're Muslim, explore that. If you're a Buddhist, like whatever faith you were born into, you should explore that faith more, because I mean, I feel as though without God, you get a future that's dominated by artificial intelligence. Without God, you get transhumanism, you get social credit scores, you get CBDCs, you get transgender 3-year-olds, and you just get like what you're seeing right now is just what you're going to continue getting, and you're going to get more of it. And eventually it just becomes, when you have a society of people that live according to whatever their base gratifications are, with no real self-discipline, you just create a society filled with misery. And so it just seems like it's obvious. It just seems like a really easy choice, right? It's like,
where are you in the country?
Well, so I'm in Johnson City, Texas. It's an hour from Austin, but I work in Austin, and I moved out there. I bought my house like a year and a half ago, but basically like Austin, Texas is the best way to.
I was in Austin a few months ago. Man, we should have met up.
Well, we didn't know each other, but next time you come back, and next time I'm in New York, we definitely have to hang out.
You come here often?
No.
Oh, come over. We'll run you for Congress.
That'd be fun. I'd love that. I might go in September. I went last year. It was my dad's birthday, and I saw like, dude, the place has changed. Like, it didn't change as bad as I thought it was based on the Twitter videos. Like, it wasn't like this crime. It wasn't like Gotham City, which is what all these crazy right-wingers think, But it was just like, it was the same as New York, but just dirt. It was like the old New York that I remember, but just like sadder and a lot filthier is what it was.
How long has it been since you've been in the city?
Well, I went there a year ago. No, it's September for a couple days. And it was fun. It was just like, wow, this is just like, it's like a shell of what it used to be. And then I went there and the last time I was there was like right before COVID, like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
you're due for a return.
Yeah. I actually have one question for you, Alex. Because you were mentioning the lockdown policies, and I want to know what your take is on the whole vaccine mandates. That's another thing to talk about. But you mentioned you were a cab driver.
A pedicab driver.
Pedicab.
I never did that job in New York. I've only done that job in Austin.
Okay. But, in that kind of occupation, you're talking to all kinds of people. You're making small talk with people from all kinds of different backgrounds, and you're getting to know people. And one thing that the lockdowns did, it really kept people from interacting in that kind of human way. And there were Zoom, whatever, but it absolutely wasn't the same. So I want to get your take on how the lockdown policies have really polarized, the dialogue and discussion between people and society.
So if it wasn't for being able to pedicab, and like if it wasn't for pedicabbing, and if it wasn't for jujitsu, I probably would have descended into like right-wing extremism, without the ability to like differentiate and decipher different things and like have like a measured discussion about why I feel a certain way. or being like without the ability to like be able to like be pliable in my thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also, I'm also going to be really honest. So I was a Bernie bro in 2016. I voted for Bernie Sanders in the 2016 primary. Yeah, there you go.
So was I.
I voted for Bernie in the 2016 primary. I even voted for Bernie Sanders in the 2020 primary. My attitude in 2020 was that my choices were going to be Yang, Tulsi, Bernie, and then if none of them won, I was going to choose Trump because I did not want Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg or any of these like DNC types that stole the election from Sanders in 2016 to run again. These people are George Bush in a blue tie. So right. I didn't want any of those people running the country. And there are problems with Trump, but there are good things about Trump too. Like if you own investable assets, he's great. I wound up having some money. I started buying. I was able to like buy some stocks and do some stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, I could actually become middle class as a result of this. I'm going to vote for whoever. I'm going to vote for the person that's going to help me and my community the most for that specific reason. I'm going to vote for the person that wants to keep my business open. That's, I'm like, you have to be a special kind of crazy to vote for the person that's going to shut down your ability to make a living. Like, how do you vote Democrat? Like, how do you vote for people that are going to like destroy your small business while Amazon makes record profits and then talk about how they champion equity and democracy? Like, I don't understand that.
Alex, you strike me as a real person, man. Like, I mean that genuinely. Like, you strike me as somebody who just cares about their neighbor and cares about their community. And you're just like, trying to do this common sense stuff, and so bringing it back to your interventions. And by the way, that's what we, Kynan and I, call, these standing up to the power, right? Interventions. You're intervening on somebody. And I just want to highlight this comment here from Deconstructing Topics. Thank you. You've been your independence has been declared. Deconstructing Topics. Thank you very much. And yes, I hold conservative values, but I see America as imperial because I was born in Puerto Rico from independent movement. That's a thing, but just to bring it back to your intervention, it's like, so how does your beliefs structure why you intervene this way? Because, you talked about being a pedicab driver. You loved it, talking to people and stuff. What made you now crash city council meetings and, actually speak truth to power and confront these folks?
Because the stuff that you were dealing with, and listen, I think a lot of the tyranny is actually subsided and it's backpedaling and things have turned a corner. And I think that right now we're actually a lot more normal and apolitical, even maybe than 2019, because people are tired of all this stuff. And a lot of these mandates and garbage is getting walked back. And we're seeing that, but people are it's a little early, so people aren't fully catching on. But when all this stuff was happening, it was scary. And, nobody really knew what to do or how to go about it. And every time that you would try to have like these like logical measured discussions with people would not like, especially like I'm throwing labels out, but a lot of these like Democrat, socialist, communist types, right, would refuse to actually want to talk to anybody that disagreed with them on anything. And they'd say, why are you giving this person a platform? You had people that were trying to get Joe Rogan removed from the internet. And like, when you have a society that causes you to have to walk on eggshells and is trying to segregate you by your medical choices and make you have a digital passport of your health to walk around into different places, like I know evil when I see it. And you have to figure out, like, you have to do something and not let that happen. And I'm lucky because I have this job where I'm kind of my own boss. There's no HR. Nobody made me wear a mask. Nobody made me get a vaccine. Nobody made me do any of this. Nobody made me do anything. I've been able to like do things and operate pretty independently. But I also realize that you can't take that for granted. And the only way that you can preserve that is if you continue to like play watchdog and fight for these values. And one day it kind of hit me. And I didn't really think too much about it, but I realized I was like, wait a minute, I should just like run for political office again And instead of doing the whole build the dome thing, I should troll them differently and just be like the ultimate like tyrannical libtard, for lack of a better word, right? Just throwing, I should just like literally imitate everything that every like Democrat mayor and governor and everybody in the UN was like imitating, like implementing, and imitate those policies and just do that on steroids. And I kind of thought about that, but I wasn't sure when I was going to do it. If I was going to do it, I was happy doing this podcast. I was enjoying doing the pedicab. I finally had some money because I got like, I bought some Bitcoin during COVID in 2020. So I was like, oh my God, I can buy a house now. Like that was kind of where I was at. Right. And then I went to, I was performing at a comedy show at Tinfoil Hat with Eddie Bravo and Sam Tripoli doing my songs. And I met Alex Stein at this Tinfoil Hat comedy show. This is in the summer of 2021. Met him, didn't really think much of him. I actually thought he was a Fed when I first met him because he's always like wearing a suit and stuff. And I was like, what's this Fed motherfucker doing? Like, who is this guy? And then he gave me his card. We talked for a little bit. He liked my songs. And then like we followed each other on like social media, liked each other's stuff here and there. But I didn't think much of it. And I like once in a while would like kind of watch his like city council videos, right? And I'm just like, or I would watch some of the city council videos and I'm just like, oh, this is kind of funny. I kind of like this. I just got to figure out how to do this. And then some of the other videos, I was like, well, I don't understand why you're doing that. But I saw the city council videos and I'm like, I'm going to put this in my back pocket, but I also got to figure out if I can A, do this consistently, and B, if I can, how this is going to affect the people I want to talk to. If like, what's going to be the end goal, right? And then I went on his Conspiracy Castle show right after his vaccine rap a year ago, or like a year and a half ago, where he went to the Dallas Council dressed as a nurse, talking about, like, you remember that vaccine rap that he made that blew him up?
Yes,
I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, and then so we talked about it on the show, and he was basically encouraged me to start doing the same thing. And before that, I was like thinking about wanting to do it. I was like, this is actually a really, really effective way to fight tyranny. And I was doing podcast episodes. I did a podcast episode with this other comic, and I said that the best way to fight tyranny is through comedy. And I realized that because when you openly imitate these people and mock them, fascism can only occur, authoritarianism can only occur if people comply with that. And it's a lot harder for people to want to comply with this stuff if they don't take the ruling body seriously. And the more you mock these people, and if you do it effectively, they become exposed for the cartoon characters that they are. And so I just felt like that was the right thing to do. Like the inner voice told me to keep doing it, come up with different ideas, everything. It's really easy because all this stuff is so in front of you with everything that's like every horrible current events news that can get you angry. Instead is like, oh my God, I get to incorporate this new thing into my act. Cool. And then I just there's just like one act after another. And now the problem is like, how do I even keep up with all the bullshit that's happening? Like there's just so much, like the work never ends because there's always another clown world initiative that they're kind of continuing to roll out. And like, the more you mock these people, the more you stay ahead of whatever event they're going to try to manipulate us into fighting with each other over. And so that's really the purpose of like why I'm doing all the stuff I'm doing.
Can you just walk us, for people that haven't seen our videos or unfamiliar with what you're doing, can you just walk us through how you plan out an act and how you execute it?
And then we'll do the latest one you did. Yeah.
All right. So it depends. Okay. So like for a city council video, right, you think of a couple of topics that have relevancy. And for me, like Alex Stein can just go off the cuff and speak off the cuff. I can't. I still get nervous. I get nervous when I always get nervous confronting politicians doing everything, right? I always have to be like, okay, like I have to, there's like a theater characterization that I just learned. It's called like pirate, robot, and ninja. And different people fall into different categories. And I realized that like I'm more of like a robot because like I have to, some of the stuff looks pirate-like, and you're going into these places like a ninja and getting information. But like, in order for me to do this, I have to really like kind of plan out and diagram what I'm going to do step by step to figure it out. Or I have to diagram like, okay, what's the objection going to be? What are they going to say in response? So I think a lot of this stuff through a lot, or I I call my friends and I'm like, hey, this is my speech. And I read my speeches to a bunch of people. And it's really annoying. I'm in the pedicab lounge trying to read my city council speeches and they all hate it, but it doesn't matter if you have follow through and you wind up doing it, it's okay. But like a big thing for me is I'll write the speech down and I'll read the speech. Like I'll call people, I'll read the speech to my girlfriend. Like I'll call my mom sometimes. Like I'll just read the speeches to people and see how it sounds. And then just see what people will say in response to it. Or I'll just go off on these rants and kind of practice. Or like when I have customers in my cab, sometimes I'll just practice on the customers and just see, depending on who the customer is, and see how it all goes. So that's kind of it. And then when it comes to the, we didn't really talk too much about the Restrict Act. And the reason I think we're not talking about it so much is because it's kind of been tabled for now. Like, what do you mean? I don't think the Restrict Act is going to move forward as it stands right now. The only way something like that could move forward is if another event occurs that classifies Americans as terrorists, like that guy in Boston leaking information in the Discord chats, shit like that. Or if a bunch of right-wing extremists decide to destroy the power grid or do an infrastructure attack. And so if you see people, so it's like, okay, well, watch the news, figure out why something is happening and try to figure out how do I get ahead of this? How do you get ahead of this so that the general public will not believe the establishment narrative? And that's kind of where I'm at on that, right? If that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. Yeah, no, a lot of what you were talking about, whether there's another leak or some kind of power grid attack. I mean, they can just fake that anytime they want and then point it on anyone they want. Right. So, they can do what they call a false flag any single time they want to do it. But let's go here to your latest stunt here. First of all, you labeled it Target CEO gets kicked out. Well, what set up the scene here? What am I looking at here?
Well, the CEO of Target is really upset that he lost $9 billion and the town of New Braunfels is full of right-wing extremists. And the goal was to talk about how these people are going to blow up the power grid, and that's why we need to install security cameras. And I wanted $9 billion from the city to recoup my losses. But they threw me out and didn't let me finish my speech, which is literal violence. But anyway, we could play the video and let them say for themselves how they feel.
All right, let's go.
Okay, next up is citizens communications. This time is for citizens to address the city council on issues and items of concern not on this agenda. There will be no city council action at this time.
Good evening, council. My name is Noah Schwartz. My pronouns are clown and clown self. I live on 3800 Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, California. Listen, I come to you broke and destitute, okay? I am the CEO of Target. And this month, I lost $9 billion, okay?
So
because a bunch of right-wing...
Do you have any city business that
yes,
you'd like to talk about?
I'm getting to it, sir. I'm sorry. I'm getting to it. Anyway, look, a bunch of right-wing extremists, they don't want to shop here anymore because I wrote a letter to the board, and I have 5 minutes, so I'm getting to it, sir. So I appreciate that. A bunch of right-wing extremists...
They don't want to shop in my store anymore because I wrote a letter to the board asking for sex toys in the kids section,
and tuck and bathing suits for women with male appendages.
This
okay,
doesn't have anything
and
to
look,
do with.
I did.
This doesn't have anything to do with city business.
No,
if
sir.
You've got something with city business.
Well, I'm facing a class action lawsuit, and I'm about to lose my 12th house, which is right across the street from Land to Parks.
So I would like to continue this.
Oh shit!
If you've got something related to city business, carry on. If not, please move on.
Of course. I mean, I just wanted a high ESG score. That's what I was promised. But instead, I'm facing a class action lawsuit. All I want is $9 billion from the city to help recoup my losses, as well as care for my wife, who has stage 5 testicular cancer and is literally getting her.
Okay. No. We're done.
Oh my God. And then they just dragged you out?
They walked me out. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I mean. But yeah. Wow. Damn. That's crazy. So, what were you trying to, what was the end goal there?
Well, the end goal was I was going to talk about how these people are terrorists, and I wouldn't be surprised if these people were going to go blow up the power grid. You know, they're probably working with Vladimir Putin to blow up the power grid as we speak, and we need security cameras on every street corner. Like, that was kind of what I was trying to.
Maybe I should go troll my city council meetings. We live
You
in
should.
New York. Yeah, why don't we? Kind of. Maybe we should go and talk about the secret police, the Chinese secret police, or something. Oh, we can't hear you, Kynan. Nah, sorry. Refresh. Yeah. Try refreshing, dog.
I did a video. I did a video as a member of Antifa like a couple months ago, where I talked about how we need to like defund the police and replace them. We need to abolish the police and replace them with a global police force controlled by the World Economic Forum. Like I've done shit like that.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, there's Kynan. Yeah. Kynan, you were trying to say something?
I was saying to you, yeah, we should be going into our city council meetings, and I've been telling you that we should been doing it for a while.
Yeah, probably. That's probably true. All right, we're coming up on time here, Alex.
Well, Jose, that's the thing, though. Everybody should be doing this. Like, I'm doing what Alex Steiner is doing, like, not because I like want to like cloud chase or you know, get to his level, because I'll never get to that guy's level. Like that guy's like Michael Jordan. Like that'll never happen, right? The goal of doing stuff like that is to spur a movement where you have a different Alex Stein in every single city council meeting. So I want everybody to do this, and I want the people that troll these meetings to do a better job at it than I am. Like, you want to have an army of people doing this, because like the more these people wind up getting mocked for their own policies, the faster they correct. The faster they want to correct in course, because these people hate it. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how much you bribe somebody, no matter how much you blackmail somebody, constant mockery, and knowing that anytime you wake up, you're going to be a meme and you're going to be laughed at anytime you walk into the grocery store. You know, knowing that you're going to have a private security team with you for the rest of your life in order to do everyday things. That's a big incentive, to listen to the people that are governing you, right? Or that is extremely disincentivizing to enact tyranny because a bunch of experts are telling you to do it.
Hey, listen, I completely agree, Alex, with you. Look, it's been fun having you on. Any parting words you want to say before I read our patron list and make a couple of announcements?
Well, I mean, I appreciate you guys having me on. If you guys want to learn more and follow what I'm doing, my Twitter is at the Alex Strenger. My Instagram is at Showtime Alex Strenger. YouTube, my YouTube is at Alex Strenger. I have a locals for my podcast, alexstrenger.locals.com. I'm using that instead of Patreon, and I got an account on Rockfin. So right now I'm just uploading a bunch of older episodes to catch up. So if you guys want to see some of my older episodes from like 2020. Just to see where I've evolved, just to see how I've evolved and what's changed, and like where I was at during the pandemic, just go to rockfin.com/Alex Strenger, I think, or just go on Rockfin and just type Alex Strenger, and you could probably learn more about what I'm doing. And if you like it, support. And the best way to support is to also do it in your local city.
Alex, I just have one question, because Jose and I, because of the prominence we got doing the AOC, doing the executive editors of the New York Times and all the mainstream media, we've been able to actually train some people. We had a group of 40 or 45, I think, Jose, on a Zoom meeting. And we were talking about, what it is you want to talk about in these kinds of meetings, how you want to record it, how do you get it on social media. And it inspired a lot of people. And because, there's 435 congressional districts, there's no reason that not one single individual can just take responsibility in that district and do exactly what you're saying, hold congressmen accountable, attend these meetings, and ask them the questions that they don't want to answer. So what would you say to people that are, kind of sitting back? They don't want anything to do with politics, but they know that there's something wrong. What would you say to actually inspire them to do what you're doing right now, and people like Alex Stein?
I mean, I think that just the amount of success that people like me and you are having in terms of getting awareness out should inspire people, right? Like, I wouldn't have been inspired if I wouldn't have been inspired or seen this as an effective tool if somebody like Alex Stein wasn't extremely successful from this. Seeing you confront politicians makes me want to confront politicians. Like when I see other people doing stuff that I think is better than what I'm doing, or that I think requires more bravery and more courage. Like when you're going to confront a member of Congress, surrounded by a bunch of officers and possibly Secret Service agents in uniform, like that takes way more balls than me trolling a city council being dressed as a clown. Whenever I see that, I'm like, okay, well, I have to do now. I got to step it up. Now I got to make this video. So the more you see somebody else's success, the more that becomes contagious. And a lot of people, they're raised to think that you have no power to be involved, and you can only do so much, and everything is predetermined. It's like a black pill. People have it on both the left and the right. Mm-hmm. But when you really when you break everything down, okay, you can't influence the presidential election, but you can influence how your city works. You can influence your congressional races. If you're a little bit nervous about doing things in your own city and you want to deal with things on a congressional level, then go troll the neighboring town. Then go to the next city. Go to the city council that's not in your city, where if you feel a little bit safer and you want to be more anonymous. There are ways to do things in which you make a difference. Or if you feel uncomfortable trolling a council in your own city and you have a friend that's upset in the neighboring city, you go to that guy's city, they go to your city. You just network and communicate with a group of people and just figure out and talk really calmly. The American Revolution was planned in bars, right? Where people talked very calmly and measuredly about how they wanted to have their own sovereignty. And I don't nobody's advocating for a bloody revolution, but what we are experiencing right now is somewhat of a revolution. It's just a revolution in the digital age. It's a revolution about how we think. And it's a revolution about how we go about communicating with our elected officials to make it so that we live in a freer and better place. And what we are doing right now is revolutionary. 30 years from now, people are going to be talking about us in their history classes about how this is a really effective way to make a difference. And people hadn't been doing this, and now people are. And, when you see these videos, it shows how easy it is. All you have to do is walk in with a phone. You don't have to do any post-production editing. You don't have to even be that intelligent. You don't even have to really have a 10-minute super great script. When it comes to making comedy at these meetings, I'm not that funny. I'm not a good comedian. It's easy. You know what I mean? And if I can do something like that, I'm a guy on a tricycle with a multitude of learning disabilities. And if I can do this stuff and get people to be inspired and get people to share my videos, well, literally anybody can do this. I lived with my mom and dad's house, 27 years old, and I'm doing this stuff right now. You're confronting people on a daily. You're confronting politicians on a daily basis. You're just some guy from the Bronx that nobody's heard of up until 7 months ago. Literally anybody, anywhere who feels this way can do this. And you're in an environment where everybody here, there's no real grifters in this environment. Nobody wants to steal the spotlight. We're doing this specifically to get other people to do this. So if you want to do this, you can reach out to me. I will talk to you. I'll coach you through it. Jose will coach you through it. Anybody will coach you through it. And if your stuff is halfway decent and not awful, I'll share it.
Beautiful.
That's it. We're in a community where everybody here wants to share each other's stuff, because this is not about getting rich. This is about creating an army of people like us to create a overall more prosperous society.
That's right.
Thank you.
Well, all right, Alex, stay right there. I'm going to read the patrons list of people who are donating to us on Patreon. Deconstructing Topics. I saw you're here. I saw your comment. It turns out you're also a patron of Kynan and Ours. That's amazing. Thank you very much, Deconstructing Topics. James Van Der Zanden, thank you very much. You've declared your independence. Karen Tiller, you've declared your independence. Henry Dean, Nick Pujols, you guys have declared your independence. Andre Salgo, Ruben Lopez, Patrick Jazz, Brandon Cook, JC, Howard Gitsky, John Kilmartin, Neil Harmon, Sam Ryerson, Mark Hellenbach, Joe Ordonance, Aditva V, Stanislav M, Dooley123, Paul Wernke, Joseph Zumwalt, Sarah Davidson, MJMR, Justin, John Tootle, Paul Burton, Jim Richards, Jewel McGuigan, ALM, Aileen, Tor Dietrich, my brother Nick. I didn't know Nick Brana was a patron.
Oh,
wow.
Great. Hey.
Maybe I should be looking at who the hell's donating us more often. Parker McRae, Vanessa Layden, Sean O'Brien, Tommy V, Salvatore Floro, Hassan Ali, Rochelle Santos, Doug Listman, John Brown, Megan, Robert Zafaras, Alan Corasani, Perea Sylvain Delio, and our friend, our OG patron, Jason Ross. I want to thank everybody for coming on the show today. I want to thank everybody who's watching Retrospect. We'll be taking clips, putting them on, and Alex, thank you very much. If you want your name read on the show, not you, Alex, you get your guest, but I mean the audience. If the audience would like their name read on the show, sign up at patreon.com/declaringindependence. It allows us to continue to stay independent. And with that, Alex, thank you very much for coming on, and we'll see you all tomorrow.